Ladies and gentlemen, today we'll learn about one of the symbols of resilience, intelligence and creativity of the Vietnamese people during the Vietnam War, the war tunnel system. These tunnels weren't just safe hiding places, they were a strategic weapon that helped the Vietnamese army fight effectively against a much stronger military force. The Cu Chi tunnels are a clear example of this creativity and bravery. To understand why the tunnels were so important, we need to look at the war itself. During the war, the Vietnamese army faced a modern army with destructive bombs, planes, tanks, and advanced surveillance equipment. To fight back, the Vietnamese people built a system of underground tunnels to protect soldiers, hide weapons, and carry out safe attacks. The tunnel system was intelligently and scientifically designed. It wasn't just simple underground paths. It was a complex network with many layers and connecting branches. The tunnels were usually dug 3 to 10 meters deep, which helped protect them from enemy bombs. The system had separate areas for different purposes, including command meeting rooms, food storage, field hospitals, and living quarters. The entrances and ventilation holes were very well camouflaged. They could be under trees, in bushes, or blended into the natural landscape. This made them very difficult for the enemy to find, even with modern surveillance tools. The tunnels also had traps, like bamboo spikes, and trapdoors to prevent the enemy from entering. The tunnels were used for many important activities. They were used to hold strategy meetings, plan attacks, and carry out surprise counterattacks. The tunnels allowed the Vietnamese army to hide underground, wait for the right moment to attack, and surprise the enemy. These attacks from hidden exits confused the American and Allied armies and forced them to defend. The tunnels were also used to store food, ammunition, and care for the wounded. Doctors worked in difficult conditions underground to perform surgeries, saving thousands of wounded soldiers. The living areas in the tunnels allowed people and soldiers to survive fierce bombing raids and maintain their fighting spirit. Despite facing many difficulties, from cramped living conditions, lack of light and air, to dangers from insects and snakes, the Vietnamese people persevered. Although the enemy tried many ways to destroy the tunnels, such as using tunnel rats, soldiers trained to enter tunnels, war dogs, and direct bombing, they couldn't completely destroy the tunnel system. In a major sweep in 1967, the US Army mobilized hundreds of soldiers along with tanks and helicopters to destroy the liberation forces in the Cu Chi area. However, when the enemy arrived, the liberation forces had completely withdrawn into the tunnel system. Initially, the American soldiers thought that the area had been abandoned, but as they moved deeper, they were suddenly attacked from the secret exits of the tunnels. Small guerrilla groups using light weapons like AK rifles and grenades quickly appeared, caused chaos, and then retreated back into the tunnels. The enemy could not pinpoint the attack points and suffered heavy losses. Later, when American soldiers tried to enter the tunnel system, they encountered booby traps and narrow passageways that made it impossible to advance. The sweep ended without achieving its objective, while the liberation forces remained safe, holding their strategic area. In the US Destroy Cu Chi campaign, hundreds of tons of bombs were dropped on the area with the aim of leveling everything. However, thanks to the tunnel system dug 10 meters deep, the army and people remained safe. Soundproof bunkers and ventilation shafts ensured that the forces inside continued to function normally despite the constant bombardment. When the American planes left, the soldiers quickly left the tunnels, restored their positions, and continued fighting. This prevented the US from achieving its goal of wiping out the liberation forces despite using superior firepower. One of the interesting stories that happened during the sweeps is how the tunnels confused the American army. In one campaign, American soldiers discovered a tunnel entrance and tried to enter by sending tunnel rat special forces down to scout. However, they got lost in the complex turns and couldn't find their way out. In addition, booby traps placed randomly at narrow points injured many special forces soldiers. In the end, the US forces had to abandon their infiltration plan, accepting defeat. This is clear evidence of the effectiveness of the tunnel system in protecting the resistance forces and inflicting casualties on the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, through these situations, we can see that the tunnels were not just shelters, but also effective fighting tools. contributing to changing the course of the battlefield. They are a testament to the creativity, resilience, and extraordinary adaptability of the Vietnamese army and people during the resistance war against the Americans. Thank you for listening.